Welcome to Entrepreneur Encounters, hosted by Halfwasson Associates. I'm Brent Halfwasson, entrepreneur coach, and I'm thrilled that you're with us here today. We have an amazing guest, Kenge Adams with Connect Business Consulting. I've known Kenge for about a year. I think you'll find her story is amazing. But before we launch into that, I want to talk about why Entrepreneur Encounters. We founded Entrepreneur Encounters because we want to be able to tell your story and help you build your dream. Halfwasson Associates, our focus is to empower entrepreneurs to be able to find the money, mindset, and means to be able to unleash your business. So that's what we're building here at Entrepreneur Encounters. And I think as you listen to Kenji's story, find out where she came from, how she's building her business, and where she wants to go, you'll be not only inspired, but you'll be able to take some pieces away in order to help your own business. So without further ado, I want to say thanks, Kenge, for joining us today.
Hi, Brent. Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So just let's start out with, tell us a little about yourself and about your business.
Sure. Yeah, Kenge Adams, and I'm originally from Racine, so I didn't grow up too far away. I lived in Chicago for a while, and now I'm in Milwaukee. Background actually was in corporate, so it wasn't really entrepreneurship. I'm relatively new, been doing my own business for probably about a year and a half. I have two kids. One, they're actually older. So one is just turned 19 yesterday. And then my oldest is 24 and married and, just doing the entrepreneur thing. And my business is Connect Business Consulting, as you mentioned. And what I do is I bring my background from working with corporate and project management, but to the community. So I noticed that a lot of community organizations didn't always have support in the project management realm or field. So what I get to do is really live my passion by helping those nonprofits really thrive and basically help those corporations implement their community projects.
Well, and I can't think of something that's more needed, particularly in this time that we're going through. But having worked in a nonprofit myself, I think the work you're doing is so necessary and so important to bring to the community. Why did you want to become an entrepreneur? What about your journey has said, this is it, this is the time, and I think I've got what it takes to make it happen?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm kind of like one of those unlikely entrepreneurs. I was raised, go to college, get a job, and that's what you do. And I did that for 20 years. And then literally I thought about it. I was about to approach, that big 50, and it's like, okay, what else is out there? What else do I want to do next? And I talked to my husband and I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance and on me, and I'm going to go ahead and do my own project management, work with the network that I have, the people that I have, and then really try to do some difference in the world. And that's what I decided to do it.
So walk us through, that's, I just want to say, I think you invested in yourself. You said you took a chance on you. I tell entrepreneurs they're investing in themselves. So just walk it through a little more detail on that journey, because that's a big pivot. And that's a piece that I want a lot of our viewers and other entrepreneurs to be able to get a handle on, because I think that's a piece that's often missed. Just so walk us through that, if you would, and even maybe the financial implications for you and your family.
Sure.
And how you just made that choice. I'm going to leap in and here's how I'm going to make it happen.
Sure, no worries. It's funny because it got to the point where, my husband and I, we work hard, our kids are, through high school, my son's about to go to college. And it was really a point where it's like, you know what? I like nice things, but I don't need a lot. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like willing to take that sacrifice, like, let me basically bet on myself. Let me see what I can do, what I can bring. And I know it's kind of crazy, but we decided to just go for it. We just buckled down. I started small. I think that's the key too, is like, I didn't go and buy a brick and mortar right away. I didn't buy a lot of equipment. I would just work out of my house. I started small. I used the money that I made on projects and then reinvested in myself. And I think that's one thing that I learned is, I didn't need a big website right away. I just started passing out business cards. I actually printed those myself, and then used, social media and the network that I had, and just had coffee obviously before the pandemic, just had coffee with people and asked, what problems did they have and how I could help them. And then from there it grew. So that was, I think, one of the biggest things is just don't feel like you have to have all this money, all this capital right away. Just start small and use resources that you have.
Use what you have. I love that, because that's just the truth. That's the reality. And you're just saying, embrace that reality today. We
Mhm.
all, you printed at home, you figured out how to make it work. You did an office from home. It turned out to be prescient with where we're at. But
Yeah.
right. Tell us a little more. You started to talk about how you were identifying the opportunity. It sounded like you were doing some interviews. So can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
how you identified the problem or figured out the problem that you want to solve for your customers?
Yeah, it is funny because one thing I did learn just from project management is how to be agile and how to pivot. And I started off thinking, you know what, I'm going to do traditional project management. I started, working with a couple of smaller startups and that, and then I was like, maybe this isn't my niche, and it's okay. You just say, okay, you know what, I started off in one direction, but let me see where I can make the most benefit. So I talked to some friends who, one of my friends, she was actually Joanne Sabir, who's the owner of Sherman Phoenix and a co-developer. And she's like, you know what? I could use some help in operations. I'm like, great. So started off small, fit, got in when I fit in. And then from there, it grew from operations. And then she had some connections in some larger corporations. They were developing programs. I got involved with those. So I think too is as entrepreneurs, sometimes we think we know what we're supposed to do, and we try to have a certain mindset or a certain goal that we think we need. But I think by meeting with people, I met with a lot of different people. I met with venture capitalists that I knew. I met with, small business owners that I knew, just to see what the problem was. And then I found my niche was working with corporations to implement their community initiatives and partnering with the community organizations. So that's really where I found my niche. And then from there, once you get a couple clients, you get name recognition, then you start to gain momentum. And that's what I found.
I really, so you would say, I think your business is very referral based and reputational based, which many businesses are.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you found those couple of clients first, and then were
Mhm.
willing to grow the business. Question: have you spent a lot, would you say, on advertising, or how have you done the marketing for your business?
I think a lot of it's just on social media. So I do have a person, I did hire a person to help me on the social media front. And so what she does is she helps me do research on, what's going on in the communities. She'll help me write articles, just kind of help me from like a business perspective. So I think that's really important. I haven't really spent a lot of money on advertising, and a lot of it, even my website was trade. So I worked with a small business initially who needed some project management support, and in return they said they'd build my website for free. So I think a lot of that too is, as an entrepreneur, work together as a group, find people who have services that they can use and you can borrow your services. And it's a way to get further faster. And that's what I did. And from there, just continue on that, on that road, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I love kind of, I call it trade and barter. In kind
Hmm.
is another phrase,
Hmm.
but figuring out how to support one another. It's an ecosystem. It does. It's not. It takes a lot of hands in order to
Hmm.
build these buildings. So kudos on that. I think that's an amazing way to continue to spread your resources, particularly if you've got time and don't
Hmm.
necessarily have clients that are paying. What a great opportunity to build value and build relationships and build the opportunity for referrals and build the opportunity for work product that can be demonstrated. So kudos on that. How would you say your business model has adapted? I think you mentioned you've been in business about a year. How would you, maybe even longer now? Time keeps flying for us.
Yeah.
How how was your business model adapted along the way?
Yeah. Because initially, like I think I was saying, I thought I'd work with startups, and then I realized that I'm better suited for working with corporations and nonprofits just from my background. I've been involved in community organizations for like over 16 years in various roles and various boards, and also worked in corporate for 20 years. So I found like that was my niche. But with the biggest adaptation, I think obviously everybody had this with COVID. So, and one of the things was I was working with a client who was going to open up actual physical STEM labs, and we were going to have spaces, we were going to work with other organizations, but then COVID hit. And so we're not going to do in-person learning for, as it turns out, a year. So what we did was we found that a lot of kids in the community didn't have laptops to have even support school. So the organization I worked with sponsored, so far we passed out over 300, almost 400 laptops to kids. And we literally did it from like almost out of our car. It was like, pull up to this spot. It was actually at the Sherman Phoenix. Pull up at the Sherman Phoenix, pop your trunk, we'll put a laptop in. And then we started doing some online learning modules. And then from there, that was actually very successful. And then the company that supported us, they started putting more money. We have more partners, and it's grown exponentially. And we're going to be launching programming in other states. We're going to be launching programs in Atlanta, in DC, and Arizona. So I think the thing is too, is just what can you do? Don't get defeated if, one particular project or program or initiative doesn't work. Then you'd look at, okay, well, what can we do? And then from there, build on that. And that's basically how I've adapted through all of this.
So I heard you, I think you're describing the concept, and you mentioned Agile. Can you take a moment for those of us who don't live in that type of world, just explain what Agile is? Because it's become a jargony word and everyone sort of nods their head. Oh yeah, Agile. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Right, but you've got experience in that, like professionally and technically.
Sure.
So just share with us what that means.
Yeah, so Agile means small. Basically, you're taking a big chunk and you're breaking it into small increments. So it's something like, instead of like, for instance, let's say you're going to remodel your house, what you do is you break it up and say, you know what, I don't have enough money to remodel my entire house over the next year. I'm going to break it up into chunks. I'm going to start with a bathroom. I'm going to break it up. And then in another month or a couple of months, if I get some more money or if I have more time, I'll move to the kitchen. And one thing that's great about Agile is you can adjust. So instead of just buying paint for your entire house, you can do your bathroom and then realize, oh, well, you know what? Instead of making the kitchen blue, I'm going to make it gray because it matches this better. So that's just another way of Agile, where you take a large project or you take a large chunk of something that you're planning to do and break it into small chunks. And then as you go, you can adapt and adjust. And then at the end, you usually end up with a much better result than if you were to just tackle it all at one time. And that's really what I did with my business. Is I started off with an idea that was, large and kind of, ambiguous initially. And then I said, okay, well, what can I do? Where can I fit? And let me do this. And then, oh, okay, well, let me adjust this a little bit and then keep moving forward. And that's really how I approach my life, and that's how I approach my business.
Wow. So it sounds like I'm just going to jump in here. Entrepreneurs are going to need to be agile. Even if you didn't understand the concept, we may have used words like pivot. We may use words like, be ready to change. Plans don't survive the battlefield. So it sounds like we're taking a large project. And if I look at starting a business, that's a large project. Break it down into small pieces. And frankly, don't be tied to any particular outcome, any methodology. Be ready to shift if something either doesn't work, or frankly, it's maybe not exactly what you wanted, or you find a better opportunity, a better color kitchen, or whatever, as the case may be. So you described an amazing outreach, and I didn't realize that you were now going to do Atlanta, DC, and Arizona. Walk us through that. Didn't just, well, maybe it did. Maybe someone sent you an email, and if so, tell us.
It's like surprise.
But walk us through. There are some steps in there, and that these are the type of explosions in people's business and outreach that someone goes, well, I can't do that, because
Mhm.
it sounds like one day it was out of the back of her trunk and the next day she's got 4 major cities that she's distributing in,
Mhm.
including Milwaukee. Can
Mhm.
you walk us through a few of those intervening steps so that folks can see maybe how that
Yeah.
emerged?
Yeah. One thing I've learned, obviously, just in life and especially in business, is partnerships is key. You can't do everything by yourself. You can't be everywhere, always, all the time. So one thing we did was, with funding from the organization that I'm currently supporting, is we looked at, okay, who can we partner with? What are some of those ways that we can help, um, spread our STEM methodology, nationwide? So we partnered with a guy named Michael Ford, and we did a hip hop architecture STEM program. And he's done camps in other cities. And so what we did was we partnered. This is at AmFam, American Family, is we partnered with the hip hop architect to do it, like we said, small initially. So we started off in Milwaukee as our first step, and that was successful. And then we said, okay, great. Now we have the green light to pursue other cities. And so, same thing with partnerships. We said, okay, who do we know in Atlanta? What universities can we connect with to help us? So, we've connected with other universities in Atlanta that we're going to use to help with recruiting, help with laptop distribution. Same thing with DC. So it's really about leveraging your network. And maybe you feel like, well, I don't know anybody, I don't have any connections. It's You'd be surprised at who you know or who knows someone else who helps you. And what I found is start to learn to be that connector or that conduit. So if people come to me and they ask me for something, maybe I don't know it personally, but I can refer them to someone else. And then later on, when you need something or someone needs your help, they'll do the same for you. And that's really what I found. So for me to be able to be in business from zero to where I am now in like about a year and a half, it's all about networking, building relationships. It's like the old like building relationships, but it's like building genuine partnerships and relationships that are reciprocal. You don't want to be that person who just takes from people. You want to be able to get whatever you have, if it's time, if it's support, if it's connections. And that's really how we're able to basically scale up so quickly, is basically leveraging our resources and networks.
Wow. Yeah. One of the um, colleagues that I worked with in a previous role really emphasized your network is your net worth. We're
Hmm.
not looking at a balance sheet. That's not, I mean, if you have a super strong balance sheet and got a lot of cash, there are probably some extra things you can do that are
Hmm.
go faster. But ultimately, I do believe no matter what role you're in, it's going to come down to your network. So
Hmm.
thanks for sharing that, because I think now, would you say that you felt like you had, I don't know, above average connections or some super
Hmm.
special connections? Or did you just, it was people you went to school with that you knew professionally over the course of your career? Sounds like you probably had a 30-ish year career
Hmm.
professionally before that. Like, or did you have like one ace in the hole that was just like, well, this is the person that opened all the doors for me?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a little bit of both. It's granted I have relationships with people that I've known for 16 plus years, and it's funny because a lot of those people we met when we our kids were little. Nobody was really in leadership, and now they're like running companies. So it's kind of funny that you have those people in your pool. But honestly, the best ace in the hole was actually when I'm in a sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, and was one of my sorority sisters, which was Joanne. We didn't know each other all of that well, but we had coffee one day, and when I started my business, and she's like, "I'm here for you. How can I help you?" I'm like, "How can I help you?" And then she really became my ace in the hole. So it's kind of like you. It doesn't have to be someone you've known forever, but I think it's just those people who have the same vision, the same passion, same goals as you. um, and so from there we became fast friends, got even closer. Our husbands are friends, um, and then we're also great business partners. So I think it's just finding those people, and you don't need a what I even tell my kids, you don't need a ton of friends, but you just need 2 or 3 good people that really have your back, that are there for you. And I found that community, and that's really what I leverage.
Oh, that's an amazing story. And I
Mhm.
think, again, I just want to reiterate, you found some common connections. This case, it was through your sorority. Some people may have it through their university, a prior
Mhm.
job where they volunteered, someone they ran into at church. They're not always readily apparent right away, right? But if you're out there cultivating, if you're out there building those relationships, oftentimes something does materialize. But it works if you work it. So, tell me a little bit about how you stay on top of your industry. Things are changing. There's a lot of change. You're supporting nonprofits, so you have to kind of maybe stay a little bit on their up on their industry and on your own trade. What are you doing to educate yourself on a regular basis to be best in class?
Sure. What I do is I do a lot of reading, research. Like I was saying, also my PR person, like she finds articles, and then I did join Spark, which is a business um, incubator, just to connect with other entrepreneurs. Because one thing is, I knew the corporate side, but I really didn't know the entrepreneur world, and that's a whole nother world that I needed to learn and know and build relationships in and cultivate those relationships. So right now it's just staying on, and a lot of times too, the work that I do is around STEM education. It's around diversity and inclusion. So just staying up on, the news and what's new and ways to stay innovative. And also too, I found that even as a project manager, I wasn't the most technical person. I came up on the business side versus the technical side. So a lot of it too is trust your team and leverage those experts. So a lot of times too, like I'll connect with people who are experts in those fields. And so that's also helpful too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just I can't emphasize enough. We're out of school by and large, but we're
Hmm.
never out of learning. Like there's
Hmm.
always an opportunity to continue learning, continue to get better, and it's a necessity for almost every field that we're in. Whether it's understanding your marketplace, your customer, new products, new technology, et cetera. What type of obstacles did you run into, Kenji, as you were both getting started and getting launched, and that you've experienced in your year and a half in business? And importantly, how did you overcome those barriers?
Yeah, I think the main obstacle was, as an entrepreneur, basically you eat what you kill. So you don't get like the every 2 week paycheck. It's like, you send an invoice and then maybe a month or two later it gets paid. So it's like, so basically being able to adjust and I think live with that. Um, and then also like having to like that hustle, like, if you're in a job, you do your job and then that's it. But as entrepreneur or as a business person that really relies on, relationships and your reputation, just making sure that you're on your game, you're supportive, you're there for the people that trust you, to do the job. So it's just, I think it's a mind shift, but I also enjoy it. It also gives you freedom too. So it's kind of a interesting change, but I think it's just the adjustment is just more so on your mind shift and how you um, think about things from your business and just going forward.
Awesome. That makes sense. Tell me about your brand. Talk about your brand a little bit and
Sure.
what is uniquely you,
Mhm.
and how you want your customers to perceive you.
Sure. I think the unique thing about me is that I do love relationships and I love genuine relationships, not just transactional here and there. And like I really like to get to know people. And one thing I can bring too is like I'm constantly a problem solver, and I think that comes with 20 years of project management where you get the problems when there's an issue with a project, issue with a client, whatever. You have to solve it, and so my mind automatically, good or bad, goes into this problem solving mode. So I think what's good for me is that I bring that experience, I bring that problem solving, and then I also, bring me and my network and hopefully positivity to a project or initiative, and then I'm all in. And I love to think things through. I love to do things, in phases and find out what we can do. So I think overall, I just bring a fresh perspective to a lot of different projects and just new ideas.
Awesome. Do you have other, tell me about your support community. You've talked a
Mhm,
little bit about your networking,
mhm,
but as a solopreneur or people in business for themselves,
mhm.
there there are a lot of pressures in life. So what is your support community like, and what enables you to stay energized and stay passionate as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, one thing is I think I have a very close knit group of like just girlfriends that, like I was saying, I've been friends with for years. And a lot of them, it's funny because a lot of them are all professionals, but when we are together or we talk, it has nothing to do with work. It's just like kids or just vacation or whatever. It's just, or sometimes they just send positive notes to each other. So it's just having that small group of friends to just lean on and be there and, just text, in the morning and send a note of gratitude or support is helpful. My family's really great. My son, because of COVID, he's doing his first year of college at home. So he's always, literally always downstairs talking to me. So that's been good. And then my husband's been great. So I think just being able to have an outlet besides, work can be a lot, but I think having that outlet. And then I also have been getting up in the morning with one of my girlfriends, and we do that Peloton app every morning at 6:30, and at night we alternate our workouts. So it's like one day it's my day to pick, one day it's her day to pick, and just getting up and working out, and then I do like a 5-10 minute meditation, and I just give myself that time, like an hour a day in the morning, just for me and getting myself together has been really helpful.
Oh, that's so key. I think it for me getting up and getting going.
Mhm,
So I'm glad to hear that you share that same energy, but I think it also gets you ready to go, because that's the
mhm,
one piece we can never get back is our time. So I
mhm.
really love hearing that. Would you say any of the folks that you've mentioned have turned into become mentors for you, whether personally or professionally?
Yeah, I think so. I know, for instance, like with Joanne, like she's built businesses, she has great connections. And it's funny because sometimes I think we think of mentoring as, well, we just do these one-on-one, because I also do coach and mentor other people who are newer in their careers where we have a set time and I talk to them about their aspirations and goals. But I just I think a lot of times almost like that apprenticeship, like just being in the room, just hearing how she holds herself, how she conducts herself in meetings, and how she treats other people has been really good because um I think it through this whole thing, you know, just having her by my side and working with her directly has been helpful. And then other people that I talk to, have been guides and mentors too. But I think sometimes we think mentorship is just a checkbox thing where we just have a straight meeting and we just go through a list. But just bringing people into your world and being able to share their thought process with you as they're making these decisions has been really helpful for me.
Awesome. What has
Mhm,
been, we've mentioned quite a few pieces, but
mhm,
perseverance, I think, is the one superpower that all entrepreneurs have to have and all small business owners have to have if they're going to succeed.
mhm,
Because in addition to being agile, there are so many curveballs that are thrown our way,
mhm.
that if we can't persevere, it's going to be really tough to make it. So, what have you had to persevere through? And you've mentioned a couple of them, but if there's anything else that sticks out, and then also, why did you decide to persevere? What drove you to fight through those hurdles?
Hurdles. Yeah, I think for me, it's just persevering is just fine. It's just like, for instance, like when you get a contractor, you work with a client, sometimes it takes months before you actually sign on the dotted line, because we figure out what's the project, where do I fit in? Well, and then it could be 2-3 months before that happens, and you're like, well, gee, like it's a lot of work to get there. But I kind of think about it as, what, I break it down into phases. Right now, I'm in my planting my seeds phase, and right now, all I'm gonna do is plant seeds, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about this next thing right now because I know that will come. And I think just having faith and belief in yourself and having other people behind you So I think just that whole thing about, you know, not backing down, not necessarily saying, you know what, I'm going to go back to a 9 to 5 because this is tough, which a lot of people do. And that was going to be my backup plan, was going to be, okay, I'm going to give it 6 months. Doesn't work, I'll go back to, corporate world or whatever. But I think just sticking through to your guns. And then sometimes I always feel like, you know, the universe, God or whoever, you appreciate, gives you little bit of nuggets, like right as you're about to quit. Like I know it happens to all of us. Like right as you're about to quit, you get a little something, like a breadcrumb someplace, and it's like, okay, I'm making the right decision. I'm doing the right thing, and listen to that. And then sometimes that little voice will say, now it's time to go left or right, and then you do that. And I think just listening to that, following the signs, staying open, helps me at least get through to that next phase of, wherever I'm trying to go.
Oh, that's amazing. That those little nuggets, those little moments of grace that show up, and we're just like,
Mhm.
oh, if I didn't get that today, I was ready to toss the towel in. That's
Yeah.
so important. Cling to those,
Hmm.
watch those coming, and know that you just have to persevere if you're going to make it. It is the universal attribute that it impacts all
Hmm.
entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Kenji, this has been amazing. If someone wants to get a hold of you and they need your services, which nonprofits, you need Kenji services, reach out to her.
Hmm.
How are they going to get a hold of you? What should they do?
Sure. They can visit my website at connectbusinessconsulting.com, or they can email me at kenji@connectbusinessconsulting.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you, either the nonprofit or corporations who are looking to implement their community initiatives. So
That's
either
awesome.
one, I'm here for you.
Great. And we do have that here on the closing slide. So do want to wrap up our time here together. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Entrepreneur Encounters. Connect Business Consulting. You can see we've got the website there to reach out. Do reach out, Kenji, at connectbusinessconsulting.com if you want to get a hold of her services and just have a conversation and learn more. I do want to give a special call out here to sponsors. We've got a few sponsors we picked up who've helped us along the way. Andrew Feller Photography, Megan Bruzan, and Milwaukee Web Designs. It's just been amazing to support us here. So thank you for that. Thank you, Kenji, for your time. And everyone, if we can help you tell your story and build your dream, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm Brent Halfwasson. You can get me at brent@halfwasson.com. I would absolutely love to hear more and see how we can support your success. Thanks for coming on today. Bye-bye.